Costa is brought to you by FQM Trident Limited, a subsidiary of First Quantum Minerals Limited.
Good evening. Welcome to Costa. My name is Andrew Mansa, sitting in for Costa Mansa. The popularity of any political party is measured by its ability to win elections. This yardstick reflects the resonance of a party's ideology, policies, and leadership with the electorate. The ruling United Party for National Development recently scooped all the local government by-elections that were held. The seats are Luangwa Ward of Choma Town Council, Muno Ward of Chiengi Town Council, Kaunga Ward of Luangwa Town Council, Kaela Ward of Lupososhi Town Council, Chikengi Ward of Kabombo Town Council, Malala Ward of Chikankanta Town Council, Lumba Ward of Gwembe Town Council, and Ndanda Ward of Limununga Town Council. The UPND believes this win affirms people's response to progressive economic policies being formulated and implemented by President Hakainde Hichilema. The opposition has, however, disputed the outcome of these elections, stating that they were a sham. Citizens First is a party that participated in these by-elections. You're catching us on channel 271 on DSTV and channel 20 on GOTV. This is Costa. We come to your screens every Sunday at 21:15. My guest tonight is Citizens First President Harry Kalaba. We discuss the just ended by-elections, but also we look at the economic trajectory that our country is on and possibly what the way forward is. President Harry Kalaba, it's always a pleasure being with you on Costa.
Thank you very much for having me this evening, Andrew, and I'm happy to be on Costa. It's always a pleasure being on Diamond TV. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. Your performance in the just ended by-elections wasn't too impressive. What could have possibly happened?
Too impressive it wasn't, as you might want to put it, but I think for us as Citizens First, I think we came out very well. Given the corruption that was happening with our colleagues in the ruling party, the UPND, we participated in only 2 wards, given the fact that we are under an organization or we are affiliated to the Agriculture Alliance. So other parties fielded in other constituencies or wards. So we were in Luangwa Ward, in Chama North, and we were also in Kaunga Ward of Luangwa District. There was rampant corruption. And I get surprised when I hear people from the UPND claiming victory, shouting victory. I look at them and say they are really bad students of history. We saw with the MMD how they were winning by-elections when they were with the PF, when PF was in opposition. MMD was winning. Every other day MMD was winning. But when it came to general election, the Chief Justice decided to say, even if we waited for all these 9 constituencies remaining to add together, still, the one Michael said I will still lead. So you get surprised and say, but what has happened to the by-elections that they were winning? For our colleagues in the UPND, we can only wish them well. We know how this thing is panning out. We hope they can buy the 9.8 million voters in 2026. Then they will win. But for as long as they will not do that, for as long as they will not distribute relief measures they were doing, for as long as they will not start giving social cash transfer during the time of by-elections, for as long as they will not be giving the cash which they give out with impunity and arrogance, as if there is no Electoral Commission of Zambia in this country to provide the checks and balances on the Electoral Code of Conduct, the UPND will not win the elections in 2026. I can tell you, Zambians are looking out for 3 things. Three things Zambians are looking out for. They want to restore order and dignity in this country. Two, they want to give Zambians back to Zambians, because right now, as you and I know, Zambia is now in the hands of foreigners. Three, they want to get rid of tribalism. They're tired of having a tribalist or two who want to divide this country. So those three things, Zambians will be answering them in 2026. And so the UPND can win as many by-elections as they want. For us, we came out second in Chama North to the UPND, despite us doing our campaigns organically, selling out only our message. We managed to come out second, and we lost not by a very large margin with the UPND. That should worry them. The same thing happened in Luangwa, in Kaunga Ward, in Luangwa district.
The UPND shouldn't celebrate this victory.
No, they shouldn't, Andrew. If they are,
what would you have said if the UPND lost these elections? Wouldn't you have said that they've lost popularity and that the people are no longer in support of their message?
But for the UPND, it's not helping them. They were better off even losing the elections so that they know where they stand, as opposed to them winning. Because them winning, they will go in that cocoon, thinking that we are safe, we are comfortable, we have beaten all the opposition political parties. In real essence, UPND has continued losing. They were very violent. Our people were beaten in Kaunga Ward. They were very violent. Our people's camp was attacked in Chama North. That's Luangwa Ward. So they were extremely, extremely violent. And if you can win using violence, and you go and parade yourselves as champions of democracy, you are wasting your time. 2026 is coming, and they'll pay the price. I can tell you, Andrew, UPND is losing the elections in 2026.
The UPND believes so much that the reason for why they have won all these by-elections, actually not 8 but 9, the other one was, though you didn't field any candidate, none of the opposition fielded any candidate. They say that this is as a result of the economic policies being formulated and implemented by President Hakainde. Now, people are benefiting off these projects that the President has put up.
You know, and I would want to ask you to say, I mean, which projects have they put up? Which projects? The UPND is a failed project itself. How can a failed project put up any project that can be substantive? Because when you look at the UPND, they've been talking about CDF. The people in the villages can't see CDF. They can't feel it.
Why are they?
Because even when they are giving, but I've just been explaining to you, they're winning elections because they're using thuggery. They're winning these elections because they're using corruption of the highest level. They were condemning their colleagues when they were in opposition. They were condemning the PF, that the PF was doing corruption. The corruption the PF was doing compared to these are elders. These are papas. They are in charge of corruption. The PF was a piece of cake. So these people are not honest, and because they're not honest, they have reached a level of even being dishonest with themselves. So they can say CDF is what is making them win. We will see. Balanda ti ukupeshelungu kwendamu elwechita ulendao menshi. We are going to see how far they will go with these tactics and how far they will sustain them. MMD tried this method. PF tried this method. At the end of the day, the people's choice, the people's verdict will be passed. And as I've told you, 3 things the people want to be actualized in this country.
So you speak 2 things that the UPND were doing this by-elections. There was corruption, massive corruption. And
too much.
And there was, political violence. Have you reported these cases of corruption, and have you reported these cases of political violence?
We have written to the Electoral Commission of Zambia, not only this time, but even the last time we participated in the by-election. We have written. But as usual, we don't get much response from the Electoral Commission of Zambia. What they do is to issue a general statement saying this is what we follow, and they did issue a general statement. But that is not speaking to what is happening. Why is the UPND allowing the DC for Isoka to come into a by-election using a government vehicle, coming into a by-election in Luangwa Ward? Why should the DC Nakonde come into a by-election in Luangwa Ward? Why should the DC for Chama North, Chama District, come into a by-election? The DC for Chipata, what were they doing in that by-election. Government vehicles, full of government vehicles, Ministry of Health vehicles are being used. And the ECZ is just looking and they're not doing anything. And I want to appeal to the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Please, please, use this opportunity to prepare the nation for the elections that are coming in 2026. Ignoring these things might not help the country. Ignoring these things will only make people begin losing confidence in the electoral process. Take these things seriously. Don't side with the UPND. Side with the people.
Do you believe that the Electoral Commission of Zambia sided with the UPND?
The Electoral Commission of Zambia is very reluctant to deal with the malpractice of the UPND. And it's very sad. We expect the Electoral Commission of Zambia to be non-partisan. But it is difficult to talk in that regard, because as you know, most of the people that have been appointed on that ECZ are coming from the UPND.
So do you believe that they've got the capacity to deliver a free and fair election in 2026, if you believe so much? Because you're not the only person of the fact that those within the Electoral Commission of Zambia are UPND cadres. Some of them, some of your fellow opposition political parties have gone ahead and single-handedly, mentioned those that belong to the UPND. Do you believe then that there's going to be a credible election in the coming year?
With the current composition of the Electoral Commission of Zambia, we doubt, heavily doubt, if there will be a credible election to be done. And this will be the first Electoral Commission of Zambia that will feel the taste of this democratic expression of our country. Zambia has been known. We have seen the Electoral Commission of Zambia conduct elections, pass on the baton to another leader, pass on the baton from the opposition, from the ruling party to the opposition. They were able to conduct elections because the ECZ held themselves intact. I am afraid to tell you here that I don't think the current Electoral Commission of Zambia we have is even serious about delivering a credible election, because I think they think their allegiance must be with Mr. Hakainde Hichilema or the UPND. That is not the way it should be. The allegiance of the Electoral Commission of Zambia must be with the Zambian people. And I want to tell you that we will not accept the Electoral Commission of Zambia. They can be commissioners, whatever they're calling themselves there, but the election of 2026 is a people's election. The people will decide who should run the affairs of this country. And nobody using the offices of governance is going to go in cahoots with a competitor that is the UPND to make them have an advantage over anybody else. We have been saying these things, and we are saying they're using corruption. How can you explain, you, Andrew, how can you explain a situation where the government is giving relief food to only one particular ward in Chama North? One particular ward where there's a by-election. That's why now they bring tons and tons of maize to give people. That's where the social cash transfer now comes. That's why they are giving jerseys and netballs and everything as government. That's why they start drilling boreholes. How do you explain things like that?
We have missed a drought, and perhaps maybe that's the reason for why.
There has been no drought. There's been no drought. There's been no drought there in Chama North. The people there didn't even need the maize. In fact, they would have wanted the relief maize way before they started harvesting their own maize. But now they're harvesting. Then you're taking maize for them. It is all corruption. And on the day of voting, they went to the biggest ward, the biggest polling station. They were giving out money. 100 kwacha, 100 kwachas, 100 kwacha. And the ECZ knows all about this. But they have elected silence. But the UPND now comes and tells you, we have won, we have been doing these things. Yes, you have won on paper. When you go on the ground in Chama North, the UPND does not even have any structures. When you go on the ground in just here in Kaunga Ward in Wangwa district, the UPND does not have any structures. Nobody wants.
Have we ever had a credible electoral commission, President Kalaba? Because even when the UPND were in opposition, when the Patriotic Front continued to win these by-elections, the UPND called them a sham. The UPND called for the Electoral Commission chairperson to resign, and they believed that he was a cadre of the Patriotic Front. Today now, the UPND is in office. You, the opposition, are calling these same electoral commissioners that they are cadres of the UPND. Have we ever had a credible electoral commission, or perhaps as politicians, crying like babies every time they lose elections?
No. It's not like that. Some of us are above that. When we speak, it's because something is not right. We have stood for this nation even when it matters most. And we are not here to manipulate the process or cry to the ECZ to help us. We are doing the work on the ground ourselves. We are talking to electorates ourselves. We don't need the ECZ to help us. The ECZ is already helping the UPND. It's fine for now. But I can tell you that the current composition of the Electoral Commission of Zambia that we have leaves much to be desired, because they are affiliates. Most of them, they are affiliates. I don't want to mention their names because they know themselves. And the nation knows them anyway. They are affiliates of the UPND. They are card-carrying members of the UPND. Some even applied to stand on the UPND ticket. Some have been seen with a barrette of the UPND, and you go and give them to be, you'll be the chairperson of this organization.
That's something different that we had before.
No, but what I'm telling you is that you had people who are credible there, like Mr. Nshindano. He delivered an election. You had Judge Chulu there. Judge Chulu was being called names and names.
Was being called a PF cadre.
I don't even know why they were calling him a PF cadre, because Judge Chulu, for me, he did a very credible election. President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND would not be in power today had Judge Chulu been as cunning, had he been as devious as they were describing him. The UPN would not have been in power, but because the man is honorable, Nshindano is honorable, these people have delivered against the expectations. They kept telling you what we are doing is transparent. What we are doing is transparent. And they stuck to what they said. I had an example for me, for instance, when the helicopter I was using during the campaigns was stopped from flying by the then regime. It was stopped. I had to go to the ECZ to complain. And the ECZ intervened and allowed the helicopter to be given flying rights. You know, that is the ECZ that we should be talking about. Now, you don't need an ECZ which only wants to, before the by-elections are declared, they go and tell the opponents of other political parties to say, oh, please prepare yourselves, because on such and such a day there might be a by-election. That is not the ECZ that we know. And they're not even helping situations, because the people are hungry, and an hungry person is an angry person. Everybody is frustrated in this country, apart from the UPND who are looting right, left, and center. Things are not right in this country. So to be in an atmosphere of thinking that we can help the UPND, Abanangani, Amakula, when it comes to governance, and you expect to get out with it when the time comes, it's a problem. The Electoral Commission of Zambia needs to jack up. They need to know that ECZ is not a partisan institution. The Electoral Commission of Zambia is not an extension of the UPND. It's not a secretariat. The ECZ is an independent, semi-independent organization which every Zambian is looking up to deliver a credible election. And I can tell you they will deliver a credible election. Whether they like it or not, they will deliver a credible election. Because we are also putting mechanisms in place. It's good
we're hearing, from you who was on the ground, who was experiencing this political violence, because government tells us something different. They're saying that today, if you call President Kalaba, he will not tell you that his party members were being hacked, how they were being hacked under the Patriotic Front. Today, people won't even talk about these by-elections because they were held in a space which was free and fair, which was transparent, but also in a space where people are free to campaign irregardless of their political affiliation.
But what do you expect of people who told you that when you elect them at 10 hours, 14 hours a dollar will collapse? What do you expect of people who told you that when they come into government, a bag of meal is going to cost 50 kwacha? What do you expect of people who told you that a bag of fertilizer will be costing 200 kwacha instead of what we were buying before? What do you expect of a government that told you that the price of fuel per liter will be costing 6 kwacha?
They're liars.
Liars. They are lying right, left, and center. That's all they are known for. Our government is sophisticated in lies. Our government doesn't tell the truth. Because this is, I'm telling you, if our government was honest, they would tell you, yes, there were pockets of violence. At least even to admit like that. They will tell you, yes, there were pockets of violence, and we're trying to address that. Then you see some semblance of distance.
Generally speaking, and honestly speaking, President Kalaba, would you compare the political environment in an election that we have now compared to the PF?
I'm telling you that violence is violence. Where there was violence in the PF and where there is violence now, violence is violence.
The gravity of
look, in the UPN it's even more complicated. Truth be told, it's even more complex in the UPND because you have ODCs leaving their offices, going into there, using government facilities. You have ministers traveling all over with their officials, going in there. If that is not abuse of office, what is it? They cannot be at you just doing up and no fee, and then stage who are doing up and no fee, they are better. A wrong is a wrong. Sin must be called by its rightful name. It is sin.
One would have expected that you're going to perform very well, owing to the fact that you went in with a different strategy in this time around in this particular election. You went in as UKA, United Kwacha Alliance. You agreed with your alliance partners that you help each other, and you agree with which particular ward election that you're going to participate in. One would have expected that at least you win 1 or 2 local government by-elections, but even with the UKA project being on your shoulders, you're still collecting zeros.
Zeros where? Zeros where?
Well, it means that you
zeros where? Let's give our public the correct perspective.
What I mean is that
there were no zeros.
What I mean is
or zeros in terms of winning any by-election.
In terms of winning any by-election.
Oh, okay, look, we did not win. But when you look at the performance, you can easily tell that the Zambians are confident that the process of this organization called UKA is giving birth. The fact that we could agree, first of all, and I think Chairman Saki explained that very well. He issued a statement that going by what came out, the Zambians are telling you that we are pointing to this direction. At a very short notice, we went in and look at the performance of our partners in the various in the various awards. I think it was not dismal. I think we tried. And going in future, this is just the very first. Going in future, wonders should be expected. So I can tell you for a fact for me that I think we are on the right trajectory, and that is why government is having problems registering UKA. It's because they know themselves. They know that they only register a weapon to kick them out. Zambians have resolved.
What are you telling Zambians that say that President Harry Kalaba is better off out of UKA because UKA is just disturbing, his chance of being president?
I'm not telling Zambians anything. Zambians already know who Harry Kalaba is. I've been on the political market for quite some time now. So Zambians know who Harry Kalaba is. And UKA is not disturbing anything. This is why we miss it.
Well, they say that you're disturbing your political project. You came out third in the last election.
Yes, I came out third.
And people, are saying that President Kalaba should have continued on the trajectory of being alone and not, incorporating people that he once called greedy, he once called corrupt. These are people that the people of Zambia rejected.
Look, I think you must understand that times change and things change. Today, where we are today, in our current dispensation, with a dictatorial government that we have, like the UPND, which is in place, you have to understand that the common cries of the Zambian people, it's the Zambian people themselves. It's not Harry Kalaba who is deciding. The Zambian people themselves, when I went to Chipata, told me, work with your colleagues. The Zambian people themselves, when I went to Livingstone, told me, work with your colleagues. The Zambian people themselves, when I went to the Copper Belt, said the same thing. This is just answering a clarion call from the people themselves who have said, Harry, please be part of the larger grouping. As to who leads, that is for the future. But first of all, I have answered the people's demand, which is to work with other political parties. If you don't listen to the people, then who will you listen to? This is not something that I just woke up and decided. The people themselves pushed it on me. Now, when you say...
But also you've got a story to tell about these people that
I'm coming to that.
Are pushing you to work towards.
I'm coming to that. The PF which Harry Kalaba resigned from is not the PF which is in government. Please, let's be fair. Even Jesus Christ himself in the Bible, Andrew, people were rising against Zacchaeus. You remember Zacchaeus? He had to go and climb that tree for him to have a glimpse of Jesus. And when Jesus said, I'm coming to your home to have supper with you, people said, but how can he go to the house of that man? He's a tax collector. He's getting a lot of money from us. He's deceiving us of our own fortunes and so on and so forth. But Jesus still went ahead because he said it is important for everyone to be brought on board. It's the same with where Harry Kalaba is sitting. The PF, in fact, come with a lot of experience when you look at things as they are. They have been in government before. They have learned the pitfalls of being in government. They understand the do's and don'ts. And because of that, it is good to hear them. And from what you are hearing from them as well, when you talk to them, they'll tell you that they're also crying about the cost of fuel. They're crying about the cost of mealie meal. They're crying about the rampant corruption which is happening in the UPND government. These are common stories in our country. So if they say the price of mealie meal is high, should I, as Ari Kalaba, refuse? Because the ones who are saying it's not PF, I should refuse.
I think the reason for why people are calling for accountability from you, President Harry Kalaba, is that you told the Zambian people that these are a group of politicians that are greedy, are corrupt. And so and so they're saying, how then do you associate with one that you had called corrupt?
Go to my letter of resignation. It is there. I think you have it there on your...
No, I don't have your letter of
My letter of resignation is very clear, and I can quote word for word because I wrote it myself. It took me about 7 days to do that later. I said there comes a time in the life of a person when individual good must be subordinated by the larger good. That's what I said in that letter. And I said I have reached a space where I think I cannot continue because the governance style and structure with which we started we have moved away from that. And I don't want to be a witness to things that we did not start with. Now, I did not say I will never work with these or collaborate with them if they bring out anything that is progressive or positive. I didn't say that. If they bring out something which is positive, they bring out the experience and say, yes, Brian Mundubile, the leader of the opposition. Does
that change the fact that...
Brian Mundubile, the leader of the opposition, was on this program when he told you, yes, the issue of cadres was not a good thing. So tell me, if the leader of the opposition now, from the PF, is able to tell you that the issue of cadres we have learned election was not a good thing, why would you want to insist that, no, you people, you should be punished? If people concede that this was a wrong, then I feel, very good. Now we are reading from the same
script. So they've considered that the PF was corrupt? Do you think they've considered and apologized that indeed we're corrupt and we've abandoned our ways of corruption? Because you told the Zambian people that the corruption in PF was endemic. These are your words, President Kalaba.
And I'll tell you one thing, that in fact, I said those things, that the PF was corrupt, and some leaders were corrupt in PF. In fact, my word was some leaders in the PF were corrupt. But when you compare the corruption I was referring to the PF that time, and the corruption which is currently obtaining now in the UPND, that is chicken feed, which was there. That is chicken feed.
You're going against your own words. You earlier told us here, President Kalaba.
I have not gone against my own words, Andrew. I'm only saying,
regardless of the gravity of the scene.
But I've not gone against my own. I'm still telling you that I resigned on the basis of that. But I've gone ahead to tell you that when you compare the two, what I condemned then and what is happening now, it's an eyesore. What's happening now is an eyesore.
The UPND is corrupt?
Extremely corrupt, and you don't know that yourself.
How so?
The UPND is corrupt in many facets. First of all, in the recruitment process of people, the way they have sold our minds, the way they have done everything, literally.
Let's talk about the recruitment that you're talking about.
It's all cumbersome, it's all problematic, very problematic. The UPND will go down in the history of this country as one of the most corrupt regimes Zambia has ever produced. One of the most corrupt regimes.
Give an example
Zambia
of the recruitment process. Tell us how corrupt you think.
No, I'm just telling you that in the recruitment exercises, you've seen, there was just a simple thing of those people that were recruiting, was it to do the enumeration of Zambians, how many Zambians we are, the census?
Yeah.
A DC in Kasama disqualifies one lady who finished the test quickly and said, and it is you who run the story here, Diamond TV. They removed her, saying, no, you could not have finished the exam quickly, so you can't get 100, so they removed her. Why? Because they had organized, using State House, they had organized that only UPND cadres were going to be employed as part of their remuneration package, the UPND members of the constituency, and that is, it is there because the ones who were employed were UPND, constituency executive members, district. Those were the ones who were employed, and you, Andrew, should take an interest in understanding this because you're a journalist. Don't just brush things off like that. I'm
asking so that
take time to understand these things because by UPND.
You mentioned something very profound, and I want people to. I don't want you to mention it just as a blanket statement. I want you to qualify why and justify, why you're mentioning some of these alarming statements that you're mentioning, President Kalaba.
Like I am mentioning right now. I'm giving you a practical example of what happened when they were doing the census, where they were choosing Abakwingisha. Even today, as you do the recruitment of the police, go and see who they're recruiting. They will advertise the list. As I'm speaking here, they will even agree with me. Those who had applied, they will advertise. But when it comes to recruitment, they're putting their own people to go in there. Is that what it should happen? So why are you even advertising? And if that is not corruption, what is it?
Have you reported these incidences to anti-corruption?
You don't have to report to the Anti-Corruption Commission. I'm asking you a question. If someone goes for recruitment and they refuse them to be part of the recruitment when they have qualified, short list, then when they say report for training, they go to report Taparishina. Basanga is the one that the UPND people have put on that list. What do you call that? Isn't that corruption? That is corruption. So, Balensala, whom they are recruiting, which is not supposed to be the case. This should be a meritorious system where you deserve, you get in. You don't deserve, you don't go in. There should be no backdoor methodologies because they promised us they will run government differently. They have failed to run government differently.
As opposition, do you believe in the capacity of the SEC to prosecute and investigate properly the corruption in the current government?
Look, the SEC, the moment the SEC was moved from where they were to be taken to State House, that's where problems started because they became compromised. You can't have a president who is controlling the SEC like his own children. You don't do that. Because what is happening right now is that it is Mr. Kainde Ichilema who's telling the SEC, can you investigate Andrew? Can you investigate Harry? Can you investigate what? That's why the corruption fight, which all of us were optimistic about, myself inclusive, I would have loved government to do a thorough investigation of these things, but they have not done it. What they have done is that they have now gone for political opponents. They want to use the SEC to victimize their friends. This is what is not right.
But doesn't this vindicate you, President Kalaba? When you see a massive, campaign against corruption, this is exactly what you told the Zambian people, that there were politicians, there were some people, few people that were corrupt in the previous administration. Yes. And the UPND is basically doing what you merely told the Zambian people.
And I'm surprised even the people I thought that they should be investigated have not been investigated.
Which people did you think?
But I'm not going to mention anybody here. But they are busy trying to victimize people all over the place. I don't think that's the way the corruption should work. The law is blind. The law is blind. Government must allow the investigative wings of government to work independently without them even telling them, that is the behavior that is at State House. It is to use the Anti-Corruption Commission to settle political scores. Why in God's name should it be like that? That's why the fight against corruption has been lost. This fight should not have been lost if it was a fight that was more inclusive. But they get it, typical of what they're doing for everything. Everything they're getting, and they get the SEC and they start telling them, number odia. I mean, it is a disappointment. It's a sham.
Well, many commentators, including the British High Commissioner to Zambia, Nicholas Hooley, said we're doing a good job in terms of the fight against corruption. I know you argued against him when he said that the democratic space is widening in Zambia, but he said, look at the millions of dollars that we've collected so far, from those people that stole, from this country. We've collected quite a sum of money, from those that got money out of this country illegally. Aren't you happy that money that belongs to the Zambian people is getting back to Zambian?
Look, I've told you that I am very happy to fight corruption. And you know me, I'm a no-nonsense person when it comes to issues of corruption. I am very happy to fight corruption. But I want the fight against corruption to have a blind face. I want the fight against corruption not to be targeting individuals. I don't want the fight against corruption to be used as a tool, because they have discredited themselves. Even with all these months we're talking about, for as long as it is laced with political gloves, they have dented themselves. The president was the one who was saying, we are going to use 6 months, we should. It is not for him to tell the crimes and economic, the economic and crimes court. It is not for him to tell them that we need to recover these things in 6 months. He doesn't know the process which will take. So all he needed to do was that we have provided the political will. We have given an enabling environment. We expect you people to swing in action. We have recruited more officers in the Anti-Corruption Commission. We have delinked you from political pressure. We have given you enough tools to use to fight corruption. Go out there and do what is right. That is what we expected him to. Not him announcing, it is 6 months. Within 6 months, these things, very soon you'll see what will be happening. It's not for the president. It's not for the president. And please, Andrew, agree with me, it's not for the president.
You again mentioned that part of the sector that is filled in corruption is the mining sector. Explain how so.
The president, or not the president, but the UPND government, you know how they have mismanaged the mining sector, especially from the beginning. 3 weeks after they were elected in government, without doing a due diligence on the mines, they reduced the mineral royalty tax from 6% to 3%. 3 weeks, even before cabinet was constituted, they reduced the mineral royalty tax from 6% to 3%.
You heard the justification from the finance minister.
The finance minister was saying it was to attract investment.
Of course, and
long term.
And that's globally, that's how.
And you are talking to a former minister here. So when I am condemning something, you are not talking to somebody who has not been in that government. I have been in there, and one of my jobs as Foreign Affairs Minister was to go out and speak for Zambia to the investors to come and invest in this country. So when you tell me that the Minister of Finance said that they did that 3 weeks to reduce the mineral royalty tax to 3%.
But also, it's the standard globally. That's the standard.
It's not a standard.
Chile is using the same.
It's not a standard.
Right.
Tanzania.
The DRC is using the same.
I'm saying Tanzania. They're using the same thing. A country does not use global statistics or global standards, as I was saying. You look at your own problems that you have as a country. Zambia is almost a mono economy. Our mining sector accounts for about 78% of our exports. And yet in terms of the GDP, just the other day, I think it's IMF, which gave a GDP forecast that it's going down. It's only 12% that the mining sector contributes. That is why government should have been very serious with the manner in which they handled the mining sector. Why should only 12% be a contribution to our gross domestic product? It's a worry. So they should have taken due diligence. Take due diligence. Once you take due diligence, the way Tanzania did, you will discover that we should have maintained either the same 6%, or we should even have gone a bit higher.
Are you happy with how they're running the mining sector so far?
But I'm telling you, I'm not happy. How can I be happy?
I haven't finished my question. On this
Well, I didn't finish explaining and ask me whether I'm happy.
Go ahead. I'll ask my question.
I am not happy. To answer your question, I'm not happy with the way the mining sector is working, because I expected them to do due diligence. We expected the mines to be probed. We expected the financial seepages to be addressed. We expected the leadership to take a very strong stance on all those that were not managing our workers properly, on all those that were not paying wages accordingly. We expected our leadership to speak for the people. But instead of speaking for the people, they were speaking for the same foreigners. That is why they even reduced the mineral royalty tax from 6 to 3%. And what that does is that the kind of revenue that you bring in this country gets compromised, because we are told that we do produce about maybe 8 million metric tons of copper per annum. It means the revenue which we get today, copper is going at about $10,000 per metric ton. So if you go by the 8 million that they're telling us is about 8 billion, so we should have been getting something. If it is 6%, 6 times 8 is going to give you about $4.8 billion. That is the money which should have been coming in this economy. But then you go and say, investors. Which investors have they brought?
International Resource Holdings that is invested.
Give me a break.
In Mopani,
that's a scandal.
$1.1 billion.
That is a scam. which has happened. That's a scandal which has happened. Because first of all, they were not even part of the bidders. I don't want to go into the details and the intricacies of the things, but they were not part of the bidders. Remember that government had brought in Rothschild in this country to manage the process of identifying who the investor for Mopani would be. And the government paid a staggering amount of $15 million to Rothschild, just in the hope that they were going to find an investor for our country. And who was part of the Rothschild, who was managing Rothschild here in Zambia, who was the resident person in Zambia, is one of the friends of the president. So that's why I'm saying that we know a lot about this mining sector. Even the way IRH was brought in, I have not agreed with it a single bit because, first of all, Parliament was excluded from the whole process when Parliament should have been part of the process. Then secondly, you know very well that Zesima IH would have floated its shares on the Lusaka Stock Exchange. They were not allowed to do that. They would have raised enough capital here to recapitalize Mopani. Because there's Absa Life, there is compensation, and all these quasi-government institutions where government would have raised the money had they floated it on the Lusaka Stock Exchange. They decided not to because they had other ulterior motives. And when we tell you these are the papas of corruption, these are the elders of how to corrupt people and get away with it, they are the ones who know. You are saying no, I think, but the truth is, the mining sector has been played with, and I'm sure people will answer questions in the near future over the way all these things has gone, because it is public property.
Are you threatening that?
I'm not even threatening. I'm making a statement here that whoever will come in government, whether it is Harry Kalaba, whether it's somebody else who be in government, anybody serious with the national affairs of our country cannot gloss over Mopani.
I'm saying, if you come in government, are you threatening that some of these people are going to go to jail?
When I come, I can't say that because I'm not the Anti-Corruption Commission. I am saying things from where I'm seated, where I'm looking at them. But I can tell you, yes, the investigative wings of government will be allowed to do a thorough investigation on the issues. And whoever has been involved, obviously, will answer to the charges.
Do you think it's prejudicial to say that some of these people are corrupt when there's no proper investigation, there's no court that has pronounced them corrupt?
I'm just telling you about the process of how it has worked on Mopani, how you came to International Resource Holdings. I don't think IRH of Abu Dhabi should have made the list to get Mopani if we were serious with ourselves. Something was fishy because they were not even among the two companies. There were two companies. There was a Chinese company and a South African company that had bidded to invest in Mopani. But these two companies were sidelined after a lengthy process to get IRH. What criteria did we use to get IRH? What criteria do we use? Just that. It's corruption.
You've been in and out of Lusaka, moving across the 10 provinces of Zambia to inspect your structures and to inspect how the people are living. What are people telling you on the ground around the cost of living?
The people are telling me around the cost of living that things are excruciatingly high. The cost of doing business also has been very high. And that is why we are urging ZRA to really look at their tax structure. It would be good for them to see how well they can extrapolate revenue from the mines as opposed to citizens, because citizens are being taxed heavily. As a result, most citizens are even closing down their businesses. They can't run. Even here where we are here, your cost of doing business is excruciatingly high. First of all, now with the load shedding which has come, it is making the cost of doing business very high. Yet we were told load shedding was not going to be, will be a thing of the past. We have it right here and then.
Should we blame government for load shedding?
Who should we blame if it's not government? Who? Who should we blame? Because the government are the ones who are selling power to these other neighboring countries. You are aware that they're selling power?
Well, I mean, it's a drought that has affected both the energy sector as well as the agricultural sector. We know for a fact that over 90% of our electricity is dependent on hydropower.
No. First of all, you must understand that we are only talking about the, is it Kariba?
Yes.
That's what we're just talking about. There's Kafue Gorge as well. Why are we not talking about Kafue Gorge? We're talking about Kafue Gorge because Kafue Gorge water is being pumped from the Konkola Deep, and the water which is pumped out of Konkola Deep is going into Kafue Gorge. So those are able to run power. But for that one, because it is dependent on rain-fed, it's having a problem. And that's where I come in and I tell you to say, look, even with what we have currently, if government behaved themselves and stopped exporting power to Tanzania, stopped exporting power to Namibia, stopped exporting power to South Africa, we would have enough power in this country to run our domestic affairs. But they have continued exporting power, even when we have advised them to say, look, even in 1996, when the SADC countries came together to do a SADC power pool agreement, they did that agreement in the understanding that they would share power when each country has power. Countries, if you look at SADC power pool agreement, it will tell you that countries which don't have power cannot go ahead to subordinate themselves to the agreement because they will not be in a position to. Right now, where we are, government, the Zambian people, Zambia as a country does not have enough power. But we are still giving 90 megawatts of power to the Namibians. Why are we doing that? Why can't we go through our contract, invoke the provisions of the force majeure, an act of God, and say because of this, and more especially, that we had a president who went to BBC, he went to CNN personally, he went to international media to cry wolf about the drought situation in this country. Even that could be reason enough for them to cancel the contract of them exporting power. But they have chosen not to do that. They have gone ahead to export power. And now we are being told that very soon it will be now 16 hours of load shedding. How will people survive? 12 hours of load shedding, how will people survive? Because even today as you and I are speaking, I'm a light here. There are 8 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours, 21 hours. In some communities, power is only coming for 3-4 hours, and again it goes. How will the Zambian people live like that? But our president and this UPND government, they don't care. They don't care about the Zambian people. That is why they would rather the foreigners, the outsiders, they have. Because when I asked one of the ministers in government, I said, but why can't you guys invoke the provisions of the contracts in order to terminate? Then he says, how do you expect them to feel? Now, how do you expect them to feel? Those outsiders. What about the Zambians here? How does he expect them to feel? The Zambians themselves here. We have taken our people for granted for too long. I'm a joke here, Felicia. We've taken our people for granted for too long. We don't even know.
Find it as justifiable when President Hakainde Hichilema says that, look, we inherited a dead economy, an economy that was shrinking at -2%, an economy that was not growing. The first thing we did when we came into office is to try and restrict.
So now the economy is growing. You know, I don't want to talk about President Hakainde Hichilema as a topic here because I will look like I'm below the standards.
The reason I ask this President Hakainde, President Kalaba, is because the justification the president gives every time he speaks about the economy. He said, look, he inherited a GDP of $18 billion, dollars. A GDP has grown. Oh. He speaks of this macroeconomics and and all that.
And when he speaks of those macroeconomics, because anybody talking about macroeconomics should also now go down to the microeconomics. Move it from macro to micro. How is that macro basics of macroeconomics? How have you broken it down to come to the micro? And micro run two. How are they benefiting from what you're talking about GDP? Because you should break the GDP to the people.
The cost of fuel has gone up, President Kalaba. The cost of cooking oil, the cost of milling has unprecedentedly gone high to extent that 3 highest notes in this country can buy a 25 kg bag of milling. Things are hard. Everyone is complaining. Literally everyone is complaining around the cost of living.
Thank you.
But what must we do?
What we must do now is again to go to the drawing board. What we need to do is to go back to the mines. Fix the mines. The answer lies in fixing the mines, because that's where the problem is. If we seal the financial seepages, that is why I've said if I became president of this country, I would ensure that a body like MEMACO is restored, because MEMACO was helping the situation of ensuring that what is mined and what is being exported is in conformity. Today Zambians are losing a lot of money because our people don't care. And coupled with that, statutory instrument number 54 of 2012 was kicked out by this government, because this government said we can sell them, we can sell the copper and the money can go elsewhere else. Mr. Sata, when he was in government, said everything you sell, first of all, must hit the local banks here. In that way, you are going to give strength to the kwacha. You are going to give, the kwacha will not suffocate as it is suffocating now, because the kwacha will have strength. There will be dollars in our banks. But it is no longer the case. Our mines, our foreign partners, our foreign investors have been allowed to externalize money as much as they want. Don't bring the money in Indo-Zambia. Don't bring the money in Zanaco. Don't bring the money in. Take the money wherever you want to take it. We don't want to know when you sell. But that is working to our advantage. When I become president, those things should be discussed. Then secondly, the issue of sealing seepages in the mines. The way we are dealing with mines in this country is catastrophic. It's catastrophic because it's one-sided. It's just looking at the welfare of the investors. It's not even looking at the welfare of the workers. The workers themselves, when you gave tax holidays to those foreigners, did you give tax holidays to the workers? Did you say, so Namaba Shimaini number from now onwards, Namaba you'll be benefiting when you bring in a vehicle as a Shimaini, it will be tax-free as an incentive? They didn't do that because they don't care about the local people. And when you hear our president, whom I respect very much, President Hakainde Hichilema, when you hear him say, we inherited an economy that was minus 2% growing of GDP, those are fake stories he's telling you. Because he knew very well that things were not well. That is why the Zambians woke up early in the morning to go and vote for him. He thought those people were going to vote for him because things were going well in the economy. It's because people said, we can't live like this. We have to change things. That is how those people woke up early in the morning to go and vote for Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. So when they go and vote for him there, Mr. Hichilema, what he should have done is first of all to admit that, look, I thought this thing was easy because, as you know me, I've never been a councillor, I've never been a mayor, I've not even been a teacher or anything in government. So I'm just learning how the yellow book looks like, what a green paper is, what the Ministry of Finance does. He should have admitted. And then he should have said, what I projected and what I have found are two different things. He didn't even have the humility to say that. What he told you and I was that we are now in the Champions League. What did he mean by that kind of Champions League? What did he mean? Then, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, he knew very well that there were problems in this country. Why did he go on that board and write Y minus 2 formula is equal to... Why was he bringing that formula of diesel, which has not worked for us? Because we expected him to employ that formula of removing the middlemen. Today, he is the one who has put a middleman in the energy sector, and everybody is complaining. Because our president is a businessman. He is not a national leader. He's a businessman. Because he's a businessman, he's doing everything with an eye of business. Now, you don't run a government like that. You must have a heart for the people. Today, diesel is expensive. Petrol is expensive. To move from Isoka to go to Chama, one has to pay 1,200. To move from Lusaka into Nakonde, one has to pay about 1,000 kwacha to reach there. What type of a country is this? And yet the salaries, the wages, are not increasing. They're not increasing. But the president is just interested in seeing what can I benefit from this, what can I get from there, what can I get from there. That is not the way you save people. That is why after only 3 years of his being in office, people are now saying this money should go. He's going after next year, 2026, August. People are kicking him out because he is not serious with governance. Because he came into government without a proper plan. Now, everything he does is to blame the past. Here in this country, Andrew, in 1991, we had the MMD. The MMD, when they came in government, taking over from UNIP, the MMD did not go on an anti and say, no, Vayunipi. What Dr. Chiluba did, may he so rest in peace. And one day that man also has to be recognized and given his rightful place in this country. That man said, we are going to demystify the transport woes. You know what he did, Andrew? The MMD government came up with a policy of allowing anybody who was bringing in those vehicles called DCMs in the country, they were coming in duty-free. Just one policy decision kicked UBZ out. Because now it was now buses waiting for people from Lusaka. I mean, I was staying at that station for days. getting a bus going to Mansa. You have to sleep for 2 days there before you can get a bus. He came in within 3 months of his being president, without him talking at Champions League, he just came in, began acting, and the Zambians began seeing a change. And then he made that same mistake that we all know concerning privatization, which others benefited from heavily. But the truth is, he worked, and credit must be given. That is how a leader works. When Wakaunda took over from Welensky, he didn't say, no, Welensky, because people are buying from butcheries. He went ahead and began changing things instead of talking. So he must change things. He talks a lot. Our president is a huge talker, but he does nothing. It's all talk, and no action. We want our president to reduce on talking, allow experts. I have been in government before. It's not even the president who should be doing those things. He should allow figures and experts to be talking, not himself. He talks a lot. He should only talk when he's sure. Look at how he has embarrassed himself.
Conclusion.
He said, the energy deficit in this country, we have dealt with it. They interviewed him, those journalists interviewed him. We have worked on it. They didn't work on it. Today we are having 12 hours of load shedding. In conclusion, the Zambian people know what I'm talking about. The Zambian people have understood the challenges they are going through. All I'm telling them is that we in the Citizens First believe that these things can be done better. All I am saying is that we in the CF, working with our colleagues, our alliance partners and other political parties, are saying Zambia can do better than it is doing. Let us give ourselves a chance. Let Zambia go back to Zambians.
Citizens First President and Alliance member of the United Kwacha Alliance, President Harry Kalaba, thank you so much for making time to speak to the Zambian people tonight on Costa.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here, Andrew. Thank you so much.
My guest has been Citizens First President Harry Kalaba, who also is a member of the United Kwacha Alliance. He's been a guest on tonight's